Mariners win 5-1. They take the final game and win the series against the White Sox. They improve to 35-35 on the season, and they go 4-2 over their homestand. Let's talk about how it happened. Third inning, Julio Rodriguez doubles home a couple of runs. Sixth inning, Mariner murderer of murderers, Elvis Andrus scores a run after Andrew Benintendi, who had a really nice series for the White Sox in these three games to make it 2-1. Then the eighth, the Mariners get a ton of insurance with a Jared Kelenic triple that clears the bases. J.P. Crawford scores, Ty France scores, Teoscar Hernandez scores. Not everybody scores because Kelenic didn't, but very nice to see the Mariners get some insurance, and they kind of needed it. They didn't end up giving up a run, but with all of the big arms in the bullpen pretty much unavailable for this one, and understandably so, it was nice to add some insurance to that run. Some negatives, but first of all, I want to say it's actually later. I'm recording this at 1:56 a.m. On Monday. A happy Father's Day to everybody. I wanted to record earlier, but I had some family stuff, and I'm actually recording now because I just dropped somebody off at for a airport shuttle. So this will be an interesting day for me. Might be pretty tired in the early afternoon. If I say something stupid on Twitter, let's blame it on that. But yeah, happy Father's Day. No, today that day can be really tough for some folks, and it can be really great for some folks. But either way, I hope you had a great day, and appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and I sure would appreciate you hitting like and subscribe. Okay, now I can be a negative fella. Offense was not good today for the most part. Ty France really struggled. Suarez really struggled. Mike Ford was awful, 0-for-3 with 3 strikeouts. It wasn't a great offensive effort. And, oh, by the way, Lance Lynn struck out 16. Lance Lynn. Now, I know he's been missing bats at a much higher rate this year than he has in the past. But really? Lance Lynn, 16 strikeouts? Goodness gracious. I did not see that coming. Now, I got to tell you, I kind of love that, a veteran hurler like him, 36 years old, they were kind of letting him towards the end of that thing to see how many could this guy get. I kind of like that they left him in. Now, it ended up not working out for them, and it may honestly have cost them the game, but I kind of liked it. Maybe I'm selfish from a Seattle Mariner point of view, too, that it ended up working out really well for them because he clearly tired, which is what happens when you throw 114 pitches. But 16 strikeouts. I mean, 33 swings and misses, which is just an incredible amount. That is a lot of swings and misses. Yeah, the offense wasn't good. Teoscar Hernandez really struggled, although he drew a huge walk in the bottom of the ninth inning, so that was big. That's the end of the negatives. We could go on and on about that. They scored 5 runs, but this may have been the worst 5-run effort I've ever seen the Seattle Mariners have. But we're not going to. We're not going to because there's a lot of positives to talk about. Bryce Miller, goodness gracious. He's been so good this year. This might be the most misleading 3.68 ERA in baseball right now because you take away 2 bad starts. And we're not talking about bad. We're talking about atrocious expletive starts that would get you designated for assignment if you weren't a 24-year-old talented hurler. Like awful. But outside of that, I don't know how you can't think, holy crap, this guy is good. No, he's not missing bats at an elite level. Like if you look at Stuff Plus, which is a fun stat, he has some of the best stuff in the sport. He leaves the ball in the middle of the plate, and he trusts his stuff a lot, which is both good and bad. Because you could see how it can go wrong. I think as he gets more comfortable, I think you'll start to see him work on that deception, work on getting guys to swing at pitches outside of the zone, you know. But I've just been floored by how good he's been, especially bouncing back from those stinkers. What he did against the Marlins and what he did against the White Sox in this homestand was massive. It was massive. Really nice job by Justin Topa. Really good, clean inning in a big situation too. One negative thing, I guess, is I wouldn't have hated having Bryce Miller come out for the 8th inning. It worked out fine. And then using Ty Adcock, I was curious to see. I have to admit, in the bottom of the 9th, I didn't see if anybody else was warming up. Maybe they were going to go to Topa for 2 innings. He only threw 11 pitches in that inning, but I didn't see if there was somebody warming up for the assumption of a 2-1 game. But making it a 4-run game, I think, made it easy to go to Adcock. I'd be really curious to see if they were planning on going to Adcock in a 1-run baseball game, because that wouldn't be the guy I'd trust. But they were pretty limited. They were pretty darn limited. Boy, do they need this off day, because that bullpen has been worked over these last few games. Offensively, J.P. Crawford scores a couple runs. Julio with that big double and also draws a walk, steals another base. We probably complain about Julio Rodriguez more than any player that is having actually a pretty decent year. Now, are these elite numbers, that Hall of Fame numbers? No, but for the most part, I think he's been good. I saw some interesting discussions on Twitter involving Julio and the clutch gene and all that crap. I'm not even going to dignify it. But I do think that people are cherry picking a little bit. Like something about stats that suggested that, like, outside of 1 week, he's been terrible. Okay, it's outside of a 10-game stretch where he went like 2 for 30. Take away that. You can't just cherry pick. Julio's numbers are what they are. And oh, by the way, defense and speed matter. Those are just conveniently forgotten when you're talking about Julio Rodriguez. Is it unfortunate that Julio Rodriguez has to be better than this? Yes. It's unfortunate that a 22-year-old is being relied on to be the not just franchise savior in the long term, but in the short term as well. Is that unfortunate? Yes. And also, folks, I cannot stress this enough. Yeah, Julio Rodriguez is now going to be making a lot of money. Who cares? It's not yours. It's a billionaire's who's running the most profitable baseball team in the United States of America and also Canada. Why do you care? Why does it matter to you how much money Julio Rodriguez is making? It doesn't determine how good of a player he is. Gosh, I'm so tired of that talk. And I'm blaming talk radio for most of it. I'm sorry, you'll hear me today on the radio, on a talk radio station. But I'm blaming you guys because you guys have put this flippin' narrative out that all of a sudden Julio Rodriguez, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. You know what I'm trying to say, hopefully. But I'm tired of that. Good for Julio Rodriguez for making a ton of money. If you think he's an unclutch player and think that he's the biggest problem with the Seattle Mariners, cool. Good for you. Have a great day. Jared Kelenic was having a not so good day, and then he lines that triple to the opposite field, and his numbers have dropped substantially as of late. But there are just enough reminders of like, oh, yeah, the long term here is going to be pretty fun. Short term is pretty good too. Well above average player right now. But certainly not hitting the way he was, but slashing that triple to the opposite field. That's what he's capable of. Hasn't driven the ball much as of late. It seems like it's been a while since we've seen a Kelenic homer. But I'll take it. I will take it. And you did your job this homestand. Now, you did the bare minimum, unfortunately. This was the bare minimum, was winning both of these series. But the bare minimum is the minimum. You did what you had to do. Really would have been nice to go 5-1. 6-0 would have been, a dream. But you did what you have to do coming into this pretty tough road trip. Although I have to tell you, the Yankees are a mess. If you're going to play the Yankees in New York right now, now's not a bad little time. Not a bad little time at all. Because, man, their offense is putrid right now. Lost 4 straight. That's something that actually concerns me, is that you can't lose forever, they just cannot hit. Tough pitching matchup coming up. I think they scored over that doubleheader in that last game 3 runs. They lost 15-5 before their game got rained out. They're not good, folks. They're not playing well right now at all. Baltimore is. Baltimore is. But the New York Yankees, this is the right time to be playing the Yankees. Now, history has shown that the Mariners can play pretty well in New York and not so well. And also, look, you can look at their career record. It has nothing to do with what's going on right now, right? Like what they did against the Yankees in 2006 has no implication on what they're going to do against them in 2023. But I do know that people like to hash. It's just like that bases loaded stat, which is absolutely hilarious. Just watch yesterday's video if you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not getting into it. But yeah, you did the bare minimum. You're back at 500. You've got 11 games to go before the exact halfway point. You've got 18 games to go, I believe, until the All-Star game. Curious where you think this team needs to be at the All-Star break to feel confident. Not to win, not to declare yourself sellers or something like that, but where do you feel like this team needs to be in terms of games back and in terms of teams ahead of them? Where do you think they need to be at that All-Star break? I figure if you're within 2 or 3, you feel pretty good. You feel pretty darn good. The problem is, of course, the leaping teams thing. And unfortunately, I know we're tired of talking about that 14-game winning streak. I'm going to bring it up for like the 6th straight show. But that's one way to make not having to leap a bunch of teams not matter, is going on one of those long winning streaks. But if you're a couple of games back, I think you're going to feel 2 or 3 games back, even 4. You're going to feel pretty good, considering how poorly they played at times this year. Beyond poorly at times. Good win. Good series win. All of those games were good, by the way, which is, I guess, a positive and a negative. The positive is, hey, you got to watch some pretty good baseball games. The negative is that they looked pretty even with the Chicago White Sox, who I do not think are a good baseball team. So, take the bitter with the better. Take the bitter with the better. So, yeah, Monday off, and then I want to say it's Kirby versus Cole, but I will confirm that. Kirby versus Cole sounds almost like a YouTube jazz thing. Who's the GOAT? Kirby or Cole? Yeah. And then Wednesday, you've got Castillo versus TBD, and then Wu German on Thursday. So big games. These are big games. Everything at this point is big. Everything at this point is big. sure there's a few people who will disagree with that, and that's fine. That's okie dokie. But yeah, I really want to know what you think. Where do you think this team needs to be at the All-Star break? And then we'll probably do the same thing for where they need to be at the trade deadline, so on and so forth. But very curious what you guys think. And I sure would appreciate if you guys would hit like, and please hit subscribe, and please tell your friends. We're getting close to, I think we're almost at 450 for subscribers. Pretty happy with that. Would love to get to 500 by the end of the month somehow. And again, when we get to 500, somebody is going to win a really cool baseball card that I still don't have in front of me, but definitely recommend doing that. Follow me on Twitter at Crawford_MILB. Sports Sometimes podcast. Going to have a new episode with my buddy Rotopat. That should come out Wednesday or Thursday. We're going to record Tuesday. And the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball podcast. And check out my Imminent Arrivals article every Wednesday. A very happy Father's Day. Belated, I know. But yeah. Here we go.